Sorry about that. We are ready to go in this second semifinal, actually. Did not cast the first one. That was Nerchio versus Penguin. And Nerchio did take the win. So the winner of this will be facing Nerchio in a best-of-5 finals, which I am super looking forward to because I do have the belief that HeroMarine takes this series, and if it's HeroMarine versus Nerchio, we actually already saw that once, I do believe. I'd have to recheck that, but I think we did. And HeroMarine is able to win with even flying colors, if I'm remembering the right series. But that is for the future. Right now we have HeroMarine versus Bly in the top left. As the third player, it's Bly. In the bottom right, as the blue Terran, he is HeroMarine. Tearing it up in the online leagues lately, looking quite strong with his own style of Terran, different than the other guy that usually appears, other Terran player from Europe, Euthermal, or even Optimus. Euthermal and HeroMarine probably the two biggest name that Europe has in terms of Terrans. One, because Euthermal has really good results, but also just been like the most long-standing. The most long-standing? That's the English is no good. Has been the Terran of the European scene for so long, is a better way to put it. For like 2 years now, I want to say that he's been the only one really getting deep in tournaments and showing good games. HeroMarine was focusing on school or what have you, doing a lot of streaming sometimes, and but still had his own legacy. So when he comes back, everyone's like, oh yeah, HeroMarine, I love that guy. Whereas other names in Europe, like Soul or Optimus, are still kind of getting their own type of legacy. But Optimus, I would say, plays more like Euthermal anyways, and no one left really plays as macro or defensive in Europe as a Terran as HeroMarine. Not that I see on a daily basis anyways. I'm sure there are some people that do. So speaking of, I guess, macro and defensive and all that, he is facing a very aggressive Zerg player. I wouldn't be surprised if HeroMarine still feels comfortable going for a 3rd CC build of some variety, just because as long as you are a smart player, you can definitely survive anything they have to throw at you, whether it's a Zerg player or a Protoss player. 3rd CC builds are coming into fashion more and more in every matchup. TVT even. Some games you see right up to a 3rd CC really quickly, and you're just like, what is happening in this matchup? But definitely coming back in TVZ and TVP. See that maybe one every 15 games, 20 games. Much more popular, however, are going to be the factory openers with a starport, not a 3rd CC. This is the side you're going to see most of the time. And then it's just a question of what do they make? Hellbats, Banshees, Ravens? And that is certainly what Bly is asking himself right here. It says Overlord sees the beginning of this build, but wants to recheck it later on. There are no Marines to kill it, so the Overlord could just stay right there. Reaper is going to continue trying to get scouting. Hasn't yet seen anything. Didn't even check the natural to see if it was like a pool first. Just played it safe anyways. Now sees the 3rd base. Gets a creep tumor, not too shabby. A couple lings saw it out in the natural. Looking for an SCV kill, perhaps. Hellions did go across the map. Only 2 of them, really not able to do very much. Bly, has he added on? Yeah, he's already got speed. Still not really showing any signs of his intentions for this game, other than that 3rd hatchery. So no 2-base Spire, and he's kind of the only guy that will do that. Couple lings dig into that natural base, but unable to get any SCV kills. Viking, there it is. Viking's gonna be able to get 2 Overlords at least, maybe 3 or 4. Bly does not have Overlord speed, and he has a couple of Overlords that are being even scouted by these Hellions, so the Viking should just make his way over there. 2 Hellions, again, cannot do very much. They can barely even take on Lings, but 4 Hellions, that sometimes gets a little bit scary, and he might even try thinking of going into the natural. Just get on top of a Queen. She's gonna die. Bly, not one of the heavy Queen macro-oriented Zergs, so unfortunately didn't have a lot of support for her. They were off doing other things, now building those Queens up as I speak. Ling's Tech 3rd CC, that does give a lot of service area, so it's a little bit scary. Just not enough Hellions, though. Raven pops out from that starport, and a second Raven is on the way. It is going to be Bio, however, with additional barracks and Stim on the way. Hellions now going after yet another queen. Tap on the drones a little bit to right there. Some decent pressure from these Hellions. They've cleaned up creep spread, they've cleaned up queens, and even got a couple of drones. The Viking continues to do damage with, I believe that is the third Overlord kill. It is indeed. Looking for a fourth one. Raven comes along with this attack. There aren't Hellbats to be made, but that little bit of extra damage, the target fire that automatically switches to the auto turret, could have been a little more dangerous, but Bly, as I was saying, like he had built a good number of queens and had brought them over, so they're definitely the sturdier unit that's going to keep you safe. There is the first real indication of how this game is going to go. A really, really fast infestation pit. Not what I would have expected from Bly. Now, I saw the third CC, but did he see the main base past this 1-1-1? No, he did not. So, he could still be maybe questioning if it's Bio or not. He hasn't seen a large number of Marines either, but I don't think that's why he's being the infestation pit. I don't think he's under any assumptions that it is mech. That's quite a strong assumption to make, even if HeroMarine's totally capable of doing it. I'm just gonna wait and see what this is for. Creep spread, not really looking too great. Again, Hellions did a fine job dealing with it. Now comboed with the Raven, and it being a powerful maneuver. Infestation pit before Roach Warren, but we do have the Roach Warren on the way. What an odd set of units here. Well, odd set of structures, I should say. Alright. HeroMarine has just recently gotten to that main base with a Raven and sees an infestation pit and must be scratching his head thinking, well, what is that for? He hasn't seen roaches. He has not seen the Roach Warren. He didn't see a hive before he got out of there. It was started after, so certainly all of those things you can think of as a Terran player, like, well, clearly you get an infestation pit for all these things, but, you know, which one is the Zerg player really focusing on? Is it Infestors, the combo with Ravagers, which I haven't seen yet? Or is it Fast Hive for fast Ultras, but how in the world could he possibly do that without any army? Because seriously, HeroMarine has just seen no army because there really wasn't one. Bly is making a lot of roaches now, but I want to say he was awfully greedy with this game. But to be honest, I feel like it could have been even faster if he really wanted to be absurdly greedy. I mean, the hive is finishing by 8 minutes, but don't get me wrong, that's still kind of a quick hive. It's just I don't know, I feel like I've seen, like, the stupidest greed possible from, like, Snoot and Nurcho, and I think it's been even faster than that. I say stupid like it's a bad thing, but you know what I mean. Like, just, like, really, really, really absurdly fast. This didn't feel that fast. Oh, well. Bly is now at a Roach army, and now at Infestors coupled with Corrosive Biles. It just took a little while and was out of order, as we usually see it. And HeroMarine was able to pick up a free 4th base. Continuing rallying through the middle of the map, building tanks, putting on combat shields, just started 2-2, adding on a second factory. Handful of Lings looking for a counterattack, but a nice bunker with a really peculiar wall, but I like it. And those Lings are unable to do very much. Bly just with very limited scouting on the map as well. HeroMarine has his Elnagas, and there's just nothing else to be seen on the map. He's going to get another 4th base. Cancel this time, hopefully. Fungal does get thrown. But it was only a handful of Marines. And the base does go down. Macro Hatchery is pumping away in the main base. We do have an Ultras Cavern now on the way. But still needs to wait for chitinous plating. And there just won't be that many Ultras, you know? Like, he didn't get up to 80 drones on 4 bases and only just lost the 4th base, having already accrued all the income he could from it. No, he's lost his 4th base a few times at 60-ish drones. And we'll be able to make 3, 4 Ultras. That's still a count that is snipeable for a growing tank count. Infestors could run out of energy too. There's not that many of them, literally only 2. And the scan reveals the burrowed Infestors every time. Tanks continuing to siege hop up here. Second factory now starting its production in close proximity to the attack path. The attack targets of HeroMarine. There's a couple medevacs there, not bad with the Infestors. But I believe that's only 1 fungal left over. Queen starting to get on the front lines. Raven coming in here, maybe for a point defense. Won't be too bad. 2-2 is almost done. So was Chitinous Plating, and he actually was able to buy enough time to get to 8 Ultras. That means he hasn't really been reinforcing with Roaches or Infestors, and HeroMarine, had he known that, might have been able to pounce a little bit harder, but still having trouble breaking through. That last fungal did get thrown out. The Ultras are now here with all of their upgrades. Well, Chitinous and +2 anyways. And HeroMarine needs to be very careful how he handles this. The Infestors, I believe they're out of energy. You could just run away from the engagement. The tanks die for his sins. That's exactly what's going to happen. And Bly has, in a way, safely gotten to Ultras. Again, he's still on 3 bases, not even mining off this 4th, but he has a very large Ultra force. It was very desperate looking, very shaky, but he was able to get to it. And now HeroMarine needs to worry primarily about how he's going to deal with that. Now, the Ultras are not supported by very much. Again, the Fungals are all out. There's no Lings. There's hardly any Ravagers. And that's where Focus Fire from a large Bioforce is still deadly to the Ultra army. You can see there, nice chunk of the health already gone. And as more Marauders get added in, that's going to be worse every time. Bly needs to add in the support, the fodder for the Ultras. Very tiny drop in the main base. Almost not even worth mentioning. Is able to see the 4th base mining away finally. 5th base is going to be denied by another drop, a little more potent than the other one. And that's nice. If he can stop Bly from being able to remake the Ultras, then that's still good news. But Bly is on his way to 3-2. Aspire, probably more for Corruptors against what is presumably Liberators, but also Brood Lords eventually. He doesn't have a Baneling now, so every single time I see these Lings gearing up for an attack, I always think they're Banelings, and they're not scary. The bunker's really, really well positioned. But Bly has managed to find himself in a decent, comfortable position with 4 bases. It's not the greatest, most explosive economy ever, right? But since he was able to, like, keep himself alive with a very limited army for so long, the resources lost really aren't that bad. He's starting to accrue a little bit of a bank. He does have the massive Ultra army, and maybe he could take an engagement, but HeroMarine now has a large Bioforce with a lot more Marauders and a lot of tanks. 9 tanks! 2 Liberators helping out as well. And again, gotta point out the lack of additional helpful units for those Ultras. A lot of Ultras actually go for a counterattack on a planetary. That's enough to kill it, and there's no support from Bio over here. HeroMarine's gonna give it up and try and save his 3rd and natural while he can. The attack of the front lines has to be C-chopped very carefully. Scans have to go down, seeing if there are a lot of Infestors waiting to go. It's going to be kind of difficult to tell how many are available, just because there's also so many Queens with their own energy bar. But there are, I think, 2 with a lot of energy. You can definitely tell by the burrow animation if those are Infestors or Queens. But the Ultras get into the 3rd base, killed 25 SCVs. He was hoping they'd try and bust the natural, I assume. So HeroMarine down to 40 SCVs on 3 bases, but on a beautiful choke. Corsair Gear is going to be great if there was a lot of them, but only able to take out a handful of tanks. 4 still survive. Bio needs to be microed to perfection. Basically, Bly looks like he might just be able to hold. He's got Corruptors out of health deal with not only the Liberators, but also take out the Medivacs that are continuing to heal through a lot of stims. Obviously, Bly lost that important mining base. He's trying to build another one, but he hasn't really taken an engagement yet, and that's where it's really going to come down to who wins this game. It's not necessarily about the remax. It's about, does this Ultra army just literally stomp all over HeroMarines? Oh, those Infestors somehow managed to dodge the continued scans and got behind enemy lines. They went for infested Terrans on tanks instead of the Fungals, but either one I think would have worked. A lot of Ultras are going down. Queens are the ones actually getting on top of the Liberators, more so than the Corruptors are. But HeroMarine does not have a lot of units. Actually, a lot of reinforcements, I guess, that were balled up in the natural come forward to take out Ultras that are left by themselves. Unsieged tanks, not that bad, to be honest. They do have decent DPS, and that ended up trading out okay on the south side. HeroMarine, though, still desperately wishing he could end the game. He's been cut down to 3 bases. Any base he takes in addition to this will be orbital from his main or natural, and thus not really easy to defend against even Ling run-bys. If he ended the game right here, right now, he wouldn't have to worry about that, but I don't think he's going to be able to. Bly would just probably be in his best interest to give up bases as long as he can, but he just sent most of his drones over here, and I really prefer not losing that drone count. At 72, though, he could lose like 20 and still be okay. HeroMarine's the one that's a bit in the dumpster. But the upgrades have finalized for HeroMarine for a while now. 3-3-1-1, both vehicle and ship weapons. Infestors once again sharking their way behind the tanks. I would say a fungal is looking mighty tasty every time this army retreats back into itself, and he has almost got it. Queens are going to be important to take out. Transfuses could be deadly, but oh, Broodlords just finished making. They were trying to be safely produced in the dead space, so they couldn't be jumped upon, and they live. There's only 3 of them, but even then, that means the tanks are going to be useless. A good fungal on top of a lot of bio, as well as medevacs that were holding some of those tanks, and I think HeroMarine is just out of juice. He doesn't have a good enough army to take this on. He did end up getting another base, but this one managed to finalize, and Bly has just been going back and forth, back and forth. Fortunately, HeroMarine desperately trying to get like 1 Viking here to deal with the Broodlords. They probably could, given enough time, because I think that was all of his Corruptors made into Broodlords. Only 1 more on the way. But oh boy, HeroMarine, he needs a stronger economy for a stronger army. But at 38 SCVs, he won't ever really have one. I love his expansion process, though. Give him credit. If he had expanded over here, like seriously 6 Lings would have ruined his day. Over here, he's attacking and defending. We do have an Infestor hit squad. A bold use of Bly's Infestors, but he's up to 9 now. A big difference from the original 2 that he survived with. So that doesn't actually seem to matter very much. HeroMarine's gonna try and go Super Saiyan, by the way. Drops everywhere, left, middle, and top side. This base is canceled. Drones go down, at least a few of them. There's not very strong anti-air. Even if Corruptors pop out, they are pretty slow units. It's more about being afraid of those sharking Infestors. Fortunately, a single Ultra in a mineral line does defend against most drops. Unless you do something weird, I mean like Ghost Snipes with them. Corruptors can't be taken out by just like 4 Marines. The medevac does go down. A decent number of drones are being killed here, and HeroMarine is still managing to keep his head above water and army supply still even with Bly here. But it's worrying. He got this base canceled again. I don't even know how many times that is. But this base only had drones killed, and Bly could lose a couple of drones and still be okay. If Bly's ever on 2 mining bases again, well, then that's probably too big of a bank for HeroMarine to take on unless he had an absolutely killer engagement. HeroMarine did manage to get to quite a few Liberators and a couple of Vikings, not only taking out the Broodlords, but also complicating things for the Corruptors. A big Bio Ball as well, and Chokes will certainly be in his favor, but there are so many Infestors burrowed here. The scans aren't going to go down. He feels like there's Infestors, so he's trying to split a little bit, but there are so many Fungals available, he can only split so far. Even some Corrosive Bile is coming down on all the air that is available, but the tanks on the Choke, the Liberator is not dying fast enough. So many, all the Ultras died, only the Ravagers live. The Broodlords are dying as well, only 1 more coming through here. And did HeroMarine actually just win with that engagement? His Vikings managed to live, a couple Liberators managed to live, and just enough Bio managed to live to perhaps snowball from here. Now Bly is mining from 2 bases, although this one should die soon enough. And he has a couple of units that need to be kind of maybe F2'd here if he's forgotten about them. But HeroMarine, he might be only mining on 1 base, 1 1/4. It is still a strong army, and a decent enough rally. He's about to move his natural command center over 2, while killing Bly's 4th. And I can't believe, or 5th actually, I can't believe that HeroMarine actually will win this game. By the looks of things, he's killed, funnily enough, not the mining bases yet. He let this one live, but he still cut the drone mining from it, and that's scary stuff. Bly also lost, I think, a couple of Infestors in that engagement, so he's down to 6. Had to bring some of those offensive ones back. He will be able to get some Fungals on the backside, but only after his units have to retreat, so there's not really a big combo here. The units of HeroMarine are so plentiful and already so spread out that it looks like Bly just cannot take on this army. Desperate Infested Terrans trying to kill the economy of HeroMarine, but not really going to work. HeroMarine with a nice Minimap awareness. All the drones of Bly are gonna go down. That's seriously like all of his drones. He's not really mining the main or the natural. It looks like maybe he has like 12 drones left over there. But that's gonna be it. And this base was defended. It was saved. Most of the SCVs lived. Bly is desperately running away with the drones. It's not gonna work out here. HeroMarine, I think, has done it. The engagement went in his favor. I mean, that's felt like it really was always going to come down to, even if Bly had the most back and forth mining possible, managed to save that final engagement for 18 minutes. It finally came down, and it was HeroMarine that was the victor. This Choka, an absolutely fantastic spot, and just, I don't know, not enough Brute Lords. You know, the Ultras were really, they attempted to be the true meat of the army, but when going through chokes against tanks and Liberators and Bio, still weren't able to suffice. And once again, we see that happening here. Ravagers now being taken out as well. Last desperate fungal, and that's going to be it for Bly's army. GG. And it certainly was. HeroMarine looked desperate after that 4th base died and his economy was cut down to 35 SCVs. Had basically the one army he was building up to win the game. If he had taken nasty combinations, he would not have been able to replace the army supply. But Nurchio took worse. Oh, not Nurchio. Sorry, just saw his tweet. Bly took a much worse engagement. I'm losing my words here. Very good, TVZ. It is going to be Odyssey next. That game took a little bit out of me. Near the countdown, Bly chose Odyssey, which is honestly not too different in, let's say, map type. The idea of 3 bases, large map, some open areas in the middle. Similar ideas to Ascension of Ire, but little differences here and there. Still one that Zerg tend to like. In the bottom right, losing that last game, it is the red Zerg, Bly. In the top left, as the blue Terran, it is HeroMarine. So let's not forget the first 10 minutes of that last game. It ended up being 20 minutes long, but the first 10 minutes was a little bit odd from Bly. He added an infestation pit before he added a Roachmorn. I mean, he really did play quite greedy. As I said, I think I've seen greedier from the other Zergs, to be honest. Some absurd games have happened, especially when fast Ultras is at its peak of play. But so I'll admit that seeing an infestation pit before any army units at all is pretty greedy. And HeroMarine definitely, I think, felt a little bit of fear once he realized, like, oh, he did get the Ultras. Oh, I did lose my 4th base. Was able to actually really bring it back in a very low econ game for him. But I bring it up not to talk about how HeroMarine, you know, was triumphant in almost a comeback game, but that Bly played a little bit off of what he usually does. He is more well known as the aggressive player, but can definitely play to super late games, super greedy games. Will he change it up here? HeroMarine is comfortable playing late game. I think it's one thing to know about him, and Bly can play late games. I would say that it's not where he's most comfortable, and might change it up on Odyssey. Now, HeroMarine does the does the front barracks wall off. I think, you know, there's that always initial suspicion, like, hey, you're going for like a triple Rax, what are you doing, man? But even while the triple Rax Reaper was being nerfed, he wasn't going for it. He was going for the front expand just to get the wall off faster for the natural. Bly went for a pool first, and he made 6 lings, which would usually be able to maybe even cancel this natural command center, but because the wall came in front, that is just simply not going to happen here. He will grab the 2 Marines that HeroMarine was looking for Overlords with, and in doing that, maybe that was worth, because he literally just saved what could have been 200 minerals worth of Overlords. And he can just leave with the lings too, but I think he was definitely hoping for a pause or cancel on the command center. Now, what this does also reveal to Bly is that there was no Reaper opener. He just literally took out the only presence on the map until Hellions pop out. So he is going to continue forward here with a Roachborn. A single Hellion is very awkward looking, and it is a very big deal that the reactor for the barracks was just taken out, and HeroMarine is hesitant to add on a reactor or tech lab to the factory. This is definitely the downside of the frontal expand, especially one in this position. If it's over here, then you can add it without worrying about losing it to Lings, but you still have to worry about losing it to Ravagers, and that is important to note as we do have Roaches on the way. But you would at least be able to try and produce the Cyclones off a reactor before Corrosive Biles died if you saw this was coming. Now he's going to add a starport to a tech lab, and there aren't any more Lings to try and stop this from being produced, so that's the good news. HeroMarine does have the beginnings of defense, and now he sees the Roaches with the Hellions actually in due time. I was really worried, and I think that's a valid concern. A lot of Terrans even bulk for Hellions before moving out. HeroMarine scouting with these 2 was very, very important. Might as well try and buy time with them because they're not going to do very much else, even just a shot here and there. Obviously, it's going to be Ravagers added in, but the Banshee is going to have popped out before the attack even really commenced. And that typically is bad news for the Roach attack. Roaches do not deal with Banshees. Banshees deal very well with Roaches. Actually, Banshees deal less well with Lings, so if there's a Ling flow, that's more worrying. But now if it's Roaches, Banshees are totally okay with dealing with this. A single Cyclone helps as well, and a Marauder even, all anti-Roach defense going on here. And I'm afraid Bly just simply isn't going to get what he wanted from this attack. Now, he's not going to tap out after this, even after being defeated at the front of the wall, but only able to get 6 SCVs? Not even that last one there. 5 SCVs, a supply depot, a tech lab and a reactor, I guess. But now he has to deal with Banshees and a 3-base Terran soon enough. HeroMarine also on his way to a fast, or decently timed, I should say, 3rd base. Bly's about the same time. Usually not great for a Zerg player. Bly is now adding his speed and lair. Well, definitely give a lot more credit for HeroMarine in this game after that hold. He is at 40 workers to 40 workers. Much better for the Terran. He does have to be a little scared, I would say, of Bly. Again, Bly, kind of an aggressive guy with odd timing tendencies. I think he has to be a little careful about taking his 3rd base too quickly, but with Banshees not just dealing damage, but also surveying the Roach count and the Roach presence, he could probably get it as fast as possible. And that's kind of key about the Banshees. Even if they don't get any damage done on the economy, they don't really have to. HeroMarine held that attack so damn well that it's not really their... I mean, I guess it's their main job still, but it's not a desperate job. It's not one where, like, literally the fate of Terran is on your hands, double Banshee. No, I'd say more so they are going to be useful for that scouting purpose. And one Banshee dies, the other one lives. Seriously, just use it for its scouting. They weren't going to get much done, especially because they didn't have Cloak. Viking gets a scout on the 4th base, which is, I think, good news, actually. Again, I think the scariest thing is that surprise attack that you don't see coming. Like, oh shit, he had 50 Roaches bulking up in his astral. A macro game from here on out is probably a lot, I don't know if it's safer, but it's like, it does seem to be HeroMarine's jam. Because I think Infestor, Roach, Ravager is a great tool to come back and even otherwise uneven army engagements. I think HeroMarine has been very good in macro games and very comfortable against that style of play. So that's why I think him going into a macro game is better for him than it is for Bly, regardless of what happened in the early game. That is a really quick hive, once again, around the same time as last game. We have +1 Carapace on the way, Infestors. This time we actually have even some roaches already out. Whereas last game we didn't have any. And 4th base is going to provide some really decent income for Bly. You can just transfer the workers over there. Mine that out nice and quick while you can, while it's still safe. And that's exactly what he does. HeroMarine's already at 1-1, starting 2-2. Still won't time out with chitinous plating. That literally is the quickest plating possible. Hive done. 2 seconds later ultra, 2 seconds later chitinous plating. Yeah, I don't think... Well, how long is the chitinous plating upgrade? I thought it was 80 seconds something, so it's 40 plus 80, 120. Actually, that might time out perfectly. Well, we'll pay more attention to that when it gets closer to that engagement. HeroMarine moving out with the bio balls have been able to accrue so far. Does not have combat shields and scans to see a couple of infestors waiting with fungals. Doesn't want to really take that on. Looks like he's a little scared. Decides not to go for the other drop, or maybe he just saw these roaches. Actually, that might have been it. He may just saw those roaches. I wouldn't be surprised if he was a little scared too, though, just because up until now, you don't know if there's 30 more roaches being rallied in here. Now, as far as they've chased you with only this army, I think HeroMarine's oh, actually, that's it. That's literally it. You're probably getting to a fast hive. Which he hasn't scouted, but I'm sure he's aware is a very, very likely scenario. Bly, I guess the roaches were seen by the medevac and the medics were seen by the roaches, so Bly is wary of a drop in his main base, but psych! HeroMarine just sent the army he dropped off in his main, his natural, with the front attack. There's not any splash with this, really. No tanks, no widow mines, but just pure numbers coming in here, and where are those infestors? The infestors are burrowed. I guess they've already cast the fungals they had. The ultras pop, but without chitinous plating, they're going to go down super, super quick. It doesn't matter that he's on creep spread. He just has pure numbers here. And this looks like it's going to be it. Chitinous plating a little bit over halfway done. Bly would need to buy time for that, but unfortunately, he's going to lose not only his 3rd base, but also that very important gold. If he'd been able to save one or the other, maybe there's a comeback potential here. But he moves in once again before plating is done, loses another ultra, and HeroMarine continues to rally through here, not caring at all about the creep spread. Not even really bothering to micro against that ultra. Plating finally finishes. And so does 2-2 for HeroMarine, so it was really perfectly timed. But Bly is absolutely dead. He was unable to get to that nice amount of armored ultras before it was too late. HeroMarine with a swift kill on Bly. It's going to be a 2-0. GG. That's going to send HeroMarine to face off against Nerchio. Now this will be another TVZ, and we might see some very similar games, but to be frank, better execution from Nerchio. Love Bly to death, and I love his aggressive style, and I think he's a good Zerg, but when it comes to Roach Infestor in particular, it's I don't know, man, you just gotta admit that Nerchio is a better... He's been perfecting that style for a lot longer, I'll tell you that much. And it's just, he's actually just had better results, so... yeah, try and say that's BM as much as you want, I suppose, but I think even Bly would be willing to admit Nerchio kind of the #1 Zerg nowadays. He's going to showcase really, really, really good Roach Ravager Infestor, if that's even all he goes for. Of course, people have been adding Ling Bane Ling Hydra, and even the occasional Spire play back on Acolyte, so I'm looking forward to this best of 5 quite a bit. It's the TVZ I was hoping for, so I got my wish. But before we get into that game, I'm going to take a 2-minute break. See you soon.